Have you ever wondered where your motivation comes from or how to increase it? Then you're going to want to watch this video about dopamine, one of the superhero neurotransmitters that plays a massive part in motivation and reward systems in the brain and supports your drive for a better life. Dopamine works alongside many other neurotransmitters as messengers in the brain, which help support healthy brain and body function. When it's working well, we experience it as pleasure and drive, but it's also a component of motor control and executive function. It's connected with our digestive system, working memory, memory retention, wakefulness, sex drive, motivation to find and eat food, and other pleasure-seeking behaviours, as well as decision-making. It plays a major role in reinforcement of desired behaviours, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Very basically, it works in a cycle like this. Dopamine is released when the brain is expecting a reward, which is why the anticipation of a pleasurable thing feels so good. This creates what we feel as motivation. We feel the reward, and that reinforces the behaviour as valuable, whether that's food, sex, exercise, or completing a task. Its role in decision making is not wholly understood, but what we do know is this: we get rewarded when we make decisions about what we want for ourselves. It's why in experiments where people are asked to make a choice out of 2 holiday destinations that were similar, even when they said it didn't really matter to them and they picked at random, within minutes they began to justify their reasons for choosing what was, until a few minutes previously, just a random decision. It's because when we solve a problem, we get a dopamine reward, even if that problem was just choosing between 2 hypothetical holiday destinations. Simply put, we become very attached to those things that we've decided on for ourselves. And this is where it gets interesting. Have you ever been given advice, even when you've asked for it, even got really good advice, even from a trusted or knowledgeable source, and still not acted on it? In fact, you might have actively resisted it. Yeah, we all have. It comes back to 2 things. 1, all change is seen at best as an error and at worst as a threat, often depending on whether we were feeling good or bad at the point that we received the information. We like to be in control. It's a human thing. In a survey of workers, they found that over more pay or more holiday, workers would choose autonomy in their role, so the ability to make decisions for themselves, which means we have to make the decision to get the dopamine reward. So when we make that decision, it negates some of the concern about change, and making a decision is a choice, so we release that bit of dopamine, just like in the holiday choosing experiment, and we become attached to the choice that we've just made. So don't waste your time giving someone advice. Do what I do and ask them awkward questions until they come up with their own solutions. So when my client's struggling and asks me, is there a right answer? Or I don't know what you want me to say, or what do you think? I just have to bat it back to them, knowing that when they do stop and consider the reward opportunities and pick one, hello dopamine. And because I really want to help them get attached to this forward motion, I ask a quietly sneaky follow-up question. And when can you see yourself doing that? I do this to help them access that decision-making skill because it releases the dopamine. They feel good. Now, interestingly, it doesn't even matter whether this action gets carried out, because the brain, if it decides this is not the best course of action, will find something better to do. And if they don't do it straight away, but they want to do it, it'll keep reminding of it until they do something of equal value or just get the thing done. Which means that whatever happens, they win. So that's when dopamine's our friend. But what about when dopamine is not our friend? Because you might have heard dopamine is also associated with addiction and addictive behaviours, and that's true. This can either be through the accelerant effects of certain drugs, such as nicotine, alcohol, or cocaine, that act on dopamine by heightening and speeding up the dopamine flood, which leaves us wanting more, leading to a repeat of the pleasure-seeking behaviour. This can lead to a diminished reward sensitivity, so it tones down that dopamine release, which means we want more of the substance to create the same feeling. Overaction of dopamine can also mean we lose interest in other things and begin to act compulsively. So it becomes our only response, sometimes even to the detriment of basic survival drivers like eating. Of course, addiction is much more complex than just dopamine, but it does play a feature role. In everyday life, we often experience a much more mundane and maybe hidden bad friendship with dopamine. So any activity that we carry out with compulsion rather than what we want can be considered addictive behaviour and a sign of dopamine not really being our friend. Toxic relationships, workaholic behaviour, compulsively checking our phones for those little pings or those little red notification alerts, watching yet another episode of that programme. There's a reason we call it binge watch. All of those things release dopamine and drive us to do it more. And therein lies the dualistic nature of dopamine. It's both our greatest friend, giving us our drive, focus, decision making, and help us really enjoy all the pleasures that life can bring. And it's a sneaky enemy, making us crave to the exclusion of anything else, things that can harm us, or at the very least, making us just go for the quick fix satisfaction. So the scroll hole, that's dopamine. The way out of those more negative side effects of dopamine can be as simple as maybe having a phone break, spending time meditating, because this reduces and resets our anticipation and reward cycle. Even just focusing on a wider range of pleasure-seeking activities to increase dopamine and other pleasure chemicals such as serotonin and oxytocin towards more things, and being alert for those times when we just seem to get hooked on that just one thing. I'm looking at you, pointless phone games. For more information, get in touch, and to see more videos like this, and to get my latest guided relaxations, visualizations, and hypnosis meditations, hit subscribe and get reminders. Thanks for watching. Remember to keep looking out for the good things, and I'll see you soon.